Hi there, welcome to Big Clay Stars. I love to make chunky toys with clay, and in this video I'm gonna sculpt Rocky. But not any Rocky. I'm gonna sculpt a big ROCKY Balboa. For the head, I'm using a two-part epoxy. Well, that's just for the armature. On top of it, I'm using Sculpting beige mixed with some flocking. The flocking colors are blue navy and red wine. You can't see it on screen, but I'm always using references, especially for making faces. To be honest, the first couple of hours are frustrating. It doesn't look at all like slime, but I keep going one lump of clay at a time. Now I'm adding some facial landmarks. I'm pretty sure having lips and ears can help him in the future. I'm still not sure if he's gonna get one black eye or two. For dramatic purposes, he's gonna get both. I'm gonna add little lumps of clay in both sockets. It was a rough fight for sure. Now I'm gonna make the other eye look even more swollen. Is time to add the ears? Still doesn't look like Rocky, but at least it looks like a fighter. I'm gonna add some reddish watercolor to his eyes. Is gonna give more drama to the scene. Now I'm starting to see the resemblance, but he definitely needs hair to make the trick. In the meantime, I'm gonna add some dark shadows for his beard. Now we are talking, right? As I said, still needs hair and eyebrows. I'm using some acrylic paint for the eyebrows. Now I think he needs more bruises all over his face. Actually, a little bit more of those. He looks beaten, that's for sure. Hope the other guy is looking worst. I'm happy with his face by now. So I'm gonna start working on the body. I'm using aluminum foil before adding some more beige sculpting. I want to go slow at this time, because getting this proportion is crucial for the rest of the piece. I'm gonna make the size of the neck a bit smaller, so I can add the muscles later on. For the muscles, I'm adding to long lumps of clay on each side. I tried to use tools just to smooth the surface and texturing, but as you can see, my main tools are my fingers. Now I'm gonna add some landmarks on his chest. Of course, I'm using all my references again. And for this part, I like to add small lumps of clay. Instead of big chunks, it gives me more clarity about the volume and shape of the torso. Once I'm happy with the shapes and volumes, I can add some smaller details. I'm happy with the proportions of the head and neck, so I can go ahead and put more clay for the chest. I use my silicone tool to merge the fresh clay with the baked one. By the way, at this point, I have baked this piece a couple of times. I'll try to let you know every time I bake the figure. Now is time to add the belly. If you have been before in my channel, you know I love to add lovely bellies to my characters. I'm gonna add big lumps of clay to establish the shoulders. I'm using my fingers to merge the shoulders muscles to the chest. Now that I have the size of the shoulders defined, I can add big chunks of clay to the sides and back of the torso. To me, besides the face, the back muscles are the most difficult part to define from the human anatomy. So you will see me adding lumps of clay here and there, and then covering them with more clay. With each iteration, I move the piece in every direction to make sure it does make sense. Sometimes adding a small lump of clay on the middle of the back makes me add clay on the shoulders, neck, and chest. Just to realize that again, I need to add more clay in the back. There's plenty of websites where you can get anatomy references, but for me, the best one is Pinterest, and of course you can use Google Images. Anyways, this is a trial and error process, so I just finish adding clay until I feel happy with the pose and proportion. But that doesn't mean that I'm not gonna need to make changes later in the process. And at this point, I'm happy with the back and shoulders, so I proceed to smooth everything out with a bit of oil and a brush. Now is time to establish the shorts. For that, I'm gonna use Super Sculpting Gray. Again, I'm adding lumps of clay to define volume and shape first. For painting purposes, I'm making the shorts and legs as separate pieces, and I'm using balsa wood as keys. I'm not sure about the pose for the legs, but I have in mind a beaten up Rocky but standing up and ready for the next punch. Now that I made a base for the shorts, I'm gonna add some beige clay for the legs. I want the leg muscles to be big but not too defined, so I'm adding big chunks of clay at a time. Here I'm using my wooden tool to establish proportions on the leg. so I can keep adding lumps of clay. Now that I'm sculpting the second thigh, I'm realizing the first one is too big. Is never too late to adjust. But right now, I'm gonna pretend that everything is good. And I'm gonna smooth the surface of both legs. At this time, I can start adding some wrinkles to the short. These wrinkles need to match the position of the legs. But as I said before, I'm not positive about the pose. So these wrinkles can change later on. Now that I have a better idea about the size of the body, I'm ready to give him a set of arms. Once again, I'm adding lumps of clay to define volume and shape. I like how this is going and how the pose is making sense. And that only means one thing, it's time to add more details to the arms. He's not gonna have hands, but boxing gloves. But I still need to imagine how the hands are posed inside those gloves, because that's what defines the shape of the forearms. I had a good couple of references for the pose from Pinterest. Of course, these are 2D references, so I have to use some trial and error once again. It's time to smooth out the surface of the arms before adding some veins on top of the biceps. For these, I'm gonna make some thin tubes of clay. And then, I'm gonna use my silicone tool to merge them with surface of the arm. Now I'm gonna adjust the left arm. And I'm gonna adjust any of the muscles of the top of the body before sculpting the boxing gloves. I just realized the shoulder and chest are too far behind. So I'm gonna add more clay to put them in position. And now I'm thinking the size of the forearms is incorrect. So I'm adding more clay. That means I have to redefine the muscles there and merge them with the bicep. Is an iterative process, but is really satisfying once you are happy with a piece you thought was ready to go to the trash. This guy already has a belly button. So I can say the torso is ready, and I can start making the boxing gloves I told you before. Now for these boxing gloves, I'm using Super Sculpey Gray. I'm happy with the shape. So I'm gonna smooth the surface before adding some details and texture. For the details of the gloves, I'm gonna use a needle I stole from my wife. I like how it looks, so I'm gonna work on Rocky's hair. I'm gonna use Super Sculpey clay for the hair, adding small tubes of clay, looking to match the shape of the head. This stage is crucial. If at this point, it doesn't look like what you have in mind, is probably time to go back and modify the face. But to me, it looks really similar to what I had in mind. So I'm gonna leave the face just like that. And now I'm gonna repeat the process on the left glove. I like how it looks like. So I can go ahead and keep working on the bottom part of the body. I also feel happy about the pose of the legs. So I can make a final adjustment to the shorts. And this means it's time for a fitting. So I'm gonna put top and bottom together and check if everything looks right. I like it, and that means it's time to bake it. But before, I'm gonna clean all the fingerprints I left on the shorts. And after it's baked, I'll be painting Rocky's hair. I think it's about time, isn't it? I'm using acrylic paint for his hair. The brand is Americana. I like it, has really vivid colors. With his hair already painted, I really can see Rocky. This is what I had in mind. Now I'm painting the gloves, and this red is everything. It brings him to life. I use silly putty to cover the rest of the body when I'm painting. It's cheap and it works well, because it also protects what you already have painted. Now I'm gonna paint this white rectangle on the gloves. I love the contrast between red and white. I couldn't be any happier about this piece. Now that the top is complete, I can focus on the bottom. I'm gonna define the size of the boots, starting with the right one. And then, I'm gonna repeat it on the left one. Once I'm happy with the size of them, I can start adding details and smoothing the surface before baking it. Now that is baked, I'm gonna mask it and I'm gonna paint it. This silly putty is one of the best tools I have on my desk. It really saves me time in the long run. From the color of shorts and boots, I'm pretty sure you know which Rocky movie is this based on. Now I'm starting to think about the base. I'm gonna use a wooden base and I'm gonna paint it black. Now I can take off the silly putty to refine the borders of the shorts and boots. And using yellow acrylic paint, I'll define every single detail of his shorts. Yellow is one of the hardest colors to paint. It takes many layers to get it right. Now I'm gonna add the details for the boots. And after that, I can call it a day. Well, that's a lie. I forgot to put a varnish coat. For the face, chest, and back, I'm gonna use a glossy varnish to recreate sweat. So this is it. This is my version of Rocky Balboa. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments, what do you want me to sculpt in the next video?